All right, it is another episode of Braves Central. Barrett, Sallee, and Chris Dimino with you. It's a Monday. We're wrapping up the series against Arizona, previewing the one against the lowly Colorado Rockies. Chris, it was, I think, a very productive series in Arizona. I know Game 3 didn't go the way that we had hoped, but winning a game like Saturday, a roller coaster of emotions, was huge for this team. It was kind of like the last box that needed to be checked. Schwelly still pitched okay on Sunday. There's a little bit of a book out on him. I think that there's a clear effort by a lot of teams to jump on him early. So he's going to have to change for the first time, I think, in his career, because it does feel like that, the book is sort of out on him.
Yeah, I think it was Toronto.
Yeah.
I remember I came in and I said, boy, look at how many guys are swinging the first pitches, whether they put the ball in play, whether it was a swing and a miss. It didn't really matter. There certainly looked like a plan, and it's now happened a couple of other times. And I do think that that's what happens. I think you decide, you come up, you're hitting coach, you get together day of game, certainly before the series starts when you do the general, but then you just remind guys, we're going to attack. And there's a couple of things to that. If you don't get it right, all of a sudden his pitch count might be a little bit lower, and he might have to stick around, or he does get to stick around a little bit longer. But we've looked. Is it like 6 hits, 7 hits, 7 hits? Is that what he's given up? The good news for him is, he hasn't been walking guys and really doing the big-time damage. But if he gets into that moment where he flips a 2 on, 1 out, take this, and all of a sudden it's a 3-run shot, then his numbers and, quite honestly, his effectiveness are going to go away. He can still give you a chance to win a game, even giving up this many hits, because he doesn't double up and triple up the problems. We talked about it yesterday. 2 in 1 inning, no walks. I get out of it. Boom. It's just a pitch count. No hits, 2 hits, 1 hit, 1 hit. 5th inning, well, is it a 5th inning at 98 pitches, or is it a 5th inning at 80 pitches? And those are the things that, when you talk about trying to rest your bullpen and all the things that you want, and Chris Sale talked about in studio here at the flagship at 680 The Fan, your number one goal is to win that game for your team, single-handedly. That's a 35, 36-year-old World Series winner talking. He said the next thing, though, and he said, quite honestly, it's the way that teams think. You have to put your team in a position to win, and he's certainly still capable of that. It just looks a little bit different than what we saw last year when he looked more dominant.
Yes, it did. And speaking of being dominant, Alex Verdugo, we talk about bridging that gap until Ronald Acuna and trying to catch lightning in a bottle and sort of find that spark, kind of like Jock Peterson. I think on the field and, in the clubhouse, it does feel like there has been a jolt ever since Verdugo got called up. I don't know if the two are correlated or not, but it does feel like he has provided a little bit more to this team than I thought, and I think maybe a lot of people thought. 4 for 4 on Sunday. I don't really care that it's in a loss. It wasn't his fault, and for him to step in like this, I think that's huge, because clearly now he's the starting left fielder for this team when Ronnie comes back. I don't think there's any doubt about that. It's, Kelnick's done. Eli White, I love him. He's going to stay on the roster, but he's not going to be the starting left fielder, even though he's on a little bit of a heater right now. But what Alex Verdugo is providing this team is enormous, and I think has been the Kickstarter for where they are right now. Is it sustainable? Probably not for 162 or whatever we have left, 130 or whatever it is. But for this team to get through this sort of this part of its schedule with a guy like that sort of serving as the catalyst is, I think, something that, a $1.5 million investment seems like it worked out pretty good.
Well, let me just mention one other thing about Eli White. He started in front of Kelnick yesterday when there was every reason, numbers-wise, to play Kelnick. So that part got rested yesterday. It's Eli White's job until it's not his job. The Verdugo thing, again, you know how I feel about Ronald Acuna leading off. I don't like it. I think Austin Riley hitting third and everybody dropping one in the order would be great if you believe Verdugo could be a leadoff hitter, that Ronald might actually have a chance to drive in instead of relying on 7, 8, 9 every day, unless Mike Harris. Now, again, you give me a Harris, Verdugo, Ronald Acuna, top 3, 9, 1, 2. Now, all of a sudden, I think I'm a better offensive baseball team. I'm not telling you it's going to happen. My guess is the minute he puts on a Braves uniform this year, he'll be hitting leadoff, and they'll work the lineup around that. But Verdugo might actually give you a pause for a second to think about it. Here's the thing, attitude guy. Oh, look, I'd rather have a guy who can play and a guy who gives me things as opposed to an attitude guy. If I get one guy to do both things, or it feels like he's doing both things, that's even a bigger win. And the fact that it's $1.5 million, and I know Alex Verdugo was supposed to be on a roster before he got signed by the Braves. He's a good enough player where he should have been around. Whatever it was, he didn't have a job. Now he has a job, and maybe he's playing a little bit, I don't want to say angry, but how about salty? Maybe he's playing a little bit salty now. And I get a guy who everybody says is a little bit of a different cat, who could play now and has proven he can play because he'd like to be in the major leagues next year and a year after that. I might end up with $1 million, $1.5 million bargain. And I know everybody wanted to do the Jock Peterson thing because I know I said, oh, look, this is what you're trying to do. Can you capture that? I'd rather it not be some song and dance. I'd rather him be a good player. I haven't really seen the signs of some of the other stuff that people thought you were getting with him. I think the guy is a little bit more focused on being a major leaguer. If you look at his career numbers, they're not spectacular, but they're certainly good enough to be on a 26-man roster. I think he either got humbled or they played it wrong, where he and his agent thought the money was going to be or supposed to be better. But he ended up in a really good place because he's on a contender. He's doing something as a fill-in for one of the best players in baseball and is doing it adequately enough now where people are actually going to say, oh, he's not playing for the White Sox. He's not playing for Colorado. He's not playing in Pittsburgh trying to accumulate things playing for me. You see sort of some of the joy. He hits a double and go look at the reaction. And I think that's the type of thing that helps him, not just here in Atlanta, but I think it helps him moving forward, that he reestablishes himself as a baseball player again.
Well, and I've said this a lot. I've said this for, 20 years or probably even more than that. Baseball is a team sport until it's not, right? I think Alex Verdugo is a perfect example of that. You'll want to win games. There's no doubt you'll want to win games, but it's an individual sport. When you're at the plate, it's only you. For you to keep your job, it's on you and you alone. And, when those two are together, when, the selfish aspect of it, which is a good thing, falls in line with opportunity, falls in line with success, all of that, it makes the perfect recipe. And like you said, Verdugo is fighting for a job, whether it's here or somewhere else next year. And that, I think, has lit a fire under him, like you said. Speaking of
let me just
lighting
one more
fire,
thing.
Go ahead.
Profar is still in the mix. Like the contract says he's in the mix. The 80 games say there's still going to be games left. What's really going to be a kick in the ass for a bunch of people around here is if you got to figure out if you're supposed to play Profar, because we know that even if you're a playoff team, let's say he helps you get there, you can't play anyway. So do you keep playing a guy like Verdugo and just put Profar on a shelf for a little bit? Or do you say, look, you got to earn your way back in. I'm not writing you back into the lineup. If this guy has success, and I don't mean out of this world, I'm not talking about goofy success, but if he's a steady enough player, I'll trust him more than I trust Profar, who I believe, again, I'm on record, you're a bad teammate. You got to come in and you got to unbad teammate yourself. You've got to get back into good graces, not just by showing up, saying I'm sorry, but by playing baseball. So are you doing all the things you're supposed to be doing now? If what's going to get interesting is if this guy looks like he's supposed to be playing every day, I have no problem sitting Profar. I just don't, because I know that I'm going to have to sit him anyway if the team goes to the postseason. Why would I tell Verdugo, you sit and watch this guy play, but don't worry, we're going to come back to you in October? Well, you don't know if there's going to be an October, and you don't know if Profar is going to help you get to October better than Verdugo would. So, I don't want to do this in April, but I am telling you, and I'm not talking about 4-hit days. I'm not talking about the goofiness of 4-hit days. Mm-hmm. That's nice. But if he's a good, steady player who wherever he hits, once Ronald comes back, is doing the job, the Profar thing is going to be a story at some point.
Yeah, and then on top of that, what if Profar just isn't very good? What if last year was because of the substances?
Yeah,
because,
I'm not giving him an extended amount of chances this year.
Yeah.
I don't care about your contract this year. You screwed me. I'm not screwing you. I'm just telling you that you are not in a position to, oh, look, I roll my bats out and here I am with my $42 million deal. That ain't going to play with this team this season.
No, it's not. And then on top of that, like I said, he had been an average to significantly below average player during his career. Last year, he had a phenomenal season. Everything fell into place. what if it was the substances? Then
Yeah.
he just might not be very good. Like the fact that he might not be a good baseball player, I think it's a conversation that we will start having once he gets closer to be reinstated.
Well, you're also known as a dirty player, and that can mind blank some guys more than others. Some guys are sociopaths. I got 36 million more. I mean, look, it cost me 6, but I got 36, and he might just be a sociopath that could put that in a box someplace. But not everybody can, because you've got an X on you now.
Yeah, that's true.
Think of how few guys have been busted in the big leagues for this stuff. So you carry the the scarlet letter. You got a hex pox on you now that you're gonna have to win over your teammates. And I'm not sure you can do it this year. Is my only point. I don't know if you can do it at the back end of the season if you got a guy who's playing well. So there's my little thing about store it away. It'll become either a problem or it'll be easy to solve eventually if Profar comes back and he plays like he's the guy that's supposed to be in there. Then I have a little bit more depth. That's what I would end up with. I'll have more depth on my lineup, on my roster than I would have had Profar sort of not screwed up and we hadn't signed Verdugo.
So much happened over the last month of the season. It's almost like I forgot Profar existed.
Yeah. Well,
that's like 10 storylines ago.
Out of sight, out of mind. Look, if you ever had a kid who, and I saw it, you play, you're a good player, tear your ACL. You got to tell. I had a daughter. I had to say, you know what your job is now? Your job is to set up cones on the field. Your job is to carry ball backs, because you better keep yourself up enough around it, and you better understand that you got to come back and win your job again. And I think that translates all the way up into the adult world with something like this. I know we got Colorado. Here's the thing. If anybody listening or watching is expecting me to break down Colorado's lineup, can't do it. Can't do it. Don't know enough about them. My biggest headline for Colorado is 2. Bud Black has been there for about 48 years. He must just love losing, or he must be immune to it. He must have a calloused soul. And I like Bud Black. Like, I think he's a really good baseball guy, but he must have a callus around his soul where this doesn't bother him enough, where he just doesn't show up one day. And the other is Chris Bryant. I found out, I heard the other day, the back again. He's going to have to sit and watch. He's just retired. He's going to get the money anyway. This is hanging over the Colorado Rockies. Willie won't be able to play. And I'm not telling you he's the reason they're not winning, but I just think it's another thing in the organization where you go, easily the highest paid player by a ton. I don't know if he's available tomorrow. Don't know if he's available next month. I'd rather ask the guy behind a closed door, hey, you're going to get your money. Maybe it's time. You release him, he retires, whatever it is. I just got to get him away, because even if he comes back, he's not helping you win games anymore. So those are the 2 things I know about Colorado. I'm not even lying. Like, those are the 2 most top-of-the-line things that I know. I got a manager who just doesn't seem to mind losing. I got an organization who might not know how to win. But I got a guy in Chris Bryant who I'm just like, there's no way anybody in that room. I respect what you did in the beginning of your career, but I can't respect the idea that I'm supposed to wait around for you to come back and play baseball.
Yeah, maybe Bud Black just enjoys living in Colorado. I mean, maybe it's a nice place to live. The organization doesn't really care about winning all that much. Here's your thing. Go, live an hour away in Vail and have a good life.
I'd have some kind of addiction if I was him. I'm not kidding. Like, I'd either, and not like to drink to forget, but I'd probably on the road, hell, going home. I'd probably be pouring myself a couple going, wow.
Yeah.
Jeez, we stink. We can't get any better. We got no talent. Whatever it is that you say to yourself that you go, am I drinking a little bit more than I used to? My guess would be I would be.
Well, Blue Moon Brewery was created at Coors Field.
Yeah, that ain't hard enough,
legitimately created. No, it's not hard enough.
I see how many games they lose. That is brown liquor territory.
It's very the brewery is very close to the dugout in the clubhouse. Just saying, you can on your way to work, you can be like, oh, let me pop one of these, or put it into a solo cup in the dugout so no one sees, and then on the way home, you stop by a distillery, you get some brown water, and you go to bed.
Yeah. Here's my promise. Over the next 3 nights, I'll know a little bit more about how they don't win. And again, look, they got 3 cracks to beat the Braves. If I bet the field, I know that it's easy to say, of course, the Braves are going to win 3 of these games. I said, no, it's not. I mean, it's not easy to win baseball games. It's easier to beat up on bad teams. It's easier to take your home run swing into Colorado. But I will say this in all seriousness. the one thing I'm looking at, and I always talk about this, is what is your outfield defense going to do in Colorado? Because we talk about home runs, but that field is monstrous. I was there again a couple of years ago, and you forget, I was sitting out in the left field area down the third baseline, and you look, and it just looks so much bigger than every other stadium. So do you cut balls off? Do you take a bad angle on something? Do you put a ball in play, and do you hit it hard enough where all of a sudden it's rolling to the wall, where it's not just 2, it's 3? In that ballpark, those are triples if you have a guy running. So you've got to be prepared to play better outfield defense here than probably any other place in baseball.
And if we saw Corbin Carroll last weekend, if it's him, it might be 3 doubles in 1 at bat. I mean, that dude, jeez, he is fast.
He's an athlete. He's an athlete. Look, the other part, people talk about fly ball, ground ball ratio in a place like Colorado, and that's real. But let me tell you something. We don't talk about line drives. Like, you hit a line drive and you bullet a line drive, whether it's outfield play or whether it's just an angle, those balls get to the wall. So we talk about home runs, but keep an eye out on all the extra base hits too.
It'll be fun to see. The Rockies are on a pace to win 24 games this season. 24. That last time I checked, 24 out of 162. That math is not good. That math is suboptimal for the Rockies. But
there used to be an expression in baseball: I win 60, I lose 60. It's what I do with the other 42 that matter. With Colorado, with the White Sox, I think we have to bring the number down. I'll win 40, I'll lose 100. And then it really depends what I do with the other 22 to figure out if I enter the territory that nobody actually wants to enter into.
We'll see if the Braves can take advantage. This has been another episode of Braves Central with myself and Chris Dimino. Subscribe, review, share, all that stuff. Like, if you're watching or you're listening, you know how to do the podcast thing, but your aunt, your uncle, your best friend, your neighbor might not. So make sure you share this with them so we can grow it into what we know will be the best Braves podcast out there. He's Chris. I'm Barrett. Thank you for watching, and thank you for listening.